Hey everyone, it is Savannah with Signature Ways, and welcome back to another episode. And today's guest is so special because she's so resilient and just a dear friend and has built a business through so many what would others would find major challenges. And so I'm just so excited to have her on here to kind of talk about that journey. And so without further ado, Renee, hello.
Hello, hello.
So tell me, how did you get into real estate?
Well, I like to say that I circled the drain of real estate for quite a while. I've undergrad in journalism and communications, and then I had gotten my master's in politics and public policy. I was working for a land surveying company, using AutoCAD and drawing up slope. And so all these neighborhoods around Denver that are popping up now, a lot of them I got to see plot plan to fruition. And so that was fun. But I've been selling now for 9 years. This is year number 9. And my first job in real estate, there was a really great big team that I applied for their marketing position and didn't get it. And then I ended up sort of taking some time in between jobs, and they were hiring for a listing manager. Mind you, our first house that we bought, I was 22, but I didn't pay attention to the paperwork, had paid no attention on this second house. The first one was in Kansas City, second one was here in Aurora. And then on the third house, I started to pay attention. That happened to be the team that they hired me to be a listing manager on. So after about 3 months of drinking from the fire hose and listing like 4 or 5 houses a week, I got pulled aside, and I went ahead and got my license because they offered a bonus. And I got pulled aside, and the operations manager goes, "So have you noticed that you're better with the people than you are the paperwork?" And I was like, "Yeah." And being with Keller Williams at the time, they rehome you if you don't fit the position right. And I could feel myself being rehomed. And I was like, okay, 100% commission. And the husband at the time said, okay, let's do it. You'll be good. Okay. And so I was on the team as a buyer's agent for about 8 months, and then struck out on my own after running numbers and just realizing, if I'm going to do this, let's do this on my own. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't even realize it was 9 years, but it makes sense. I'm like looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, because I sometimes feel I'm like, I've been doing real estate for 4 and it's been 11. I'm like, what? Where has the time gone?
Yeah. Well, when we don't, like with our kids, they have a school cycle.
Mm.
And with holidays, you notice they come and go and the days just fly by. But when you work any day, every day of the week,
It just blurs.
it all runs together. And especially that 2020 through 23, it all is one big blur.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is kind of your unique ability that you bring into the real estate realm with your clients?
Besides my wit and my humor,
Yeah,
no.
100%.
I like to help clients where they're at now and then where they could possibly be. I really, all my beginning marketing pieces and everything I sort of latched onto from the beginning forward, it really was, the story's not about me. This life that we're in is a choose your own adventure. So if you turn to page 49, I'm there. And if you want to buy a house, all right, then we're going to jump back to page 23. And and I want to guide you through this. So there's that piece that I love, that's education. there's that piece that I love, that's the freedom that comes with having another piece of retirement or another something that you hold on to. And then it's, quite frankly, it's a piece of excitement that comes with, oh my God, I don't have to pay a renter I don't have to pay rent anymore. I don't have to pay HOAs, or whatever that may be. The fact that it's one of the most stressful things that you can do in life, and yet we're trained so well to take that stress and to just sort of pack it together, and instead of it being poop, it becomes compost. You know what I mean? We use
Right.
it for their clients' good and for our good. So yeah, I think I have a perspective of, all right, we're going to adapt no matter what happens. We're going to hit your goals. It may be now or it may be 2 years from now, but we'll get there. So
Yeah. Tell me, when you talk about the adapt piece, and I kind of want to hit on this a little bit, tell me how your business over the years has adapted.
yeah. Well, one thing that's great about the little Zoom box is that you can't see my chair, which normally it doesn't matter what chair you sit in, except for that my chair is also my legs right now. So I was 14 years ago, I was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, and through some different things that have happened in life that have accelerated the disease, COVID being one of them, stressful divorce and custody battle, that's being another. Like all of those things, stress really affects MS. And so I
Mhm.
don't walk hardly at all anymore. I can, but it's very slow and tedious, and it takes up a lot of energy. So that being said, when people think of realtors and selling houses, they oftentimes see HGTV. And anybody that's bought or sold a house with me can tell you, I specifically point out there are no cameras behind me. We are not filming a TV show. We may or may not find it in 3, but we're sure as the heck not going to go see 26 because we don't get paid to go and look at houses. So let's accomplish your goals. We get real clear on that. And so that's the first thing that having to adapt to not having my legs is my pre-buyer consultation on the phone, and then my buyer consultation either via Zoom or in person in an office. And the same with sellers. I do a lot of my presentations, consultations on Zoom, whether they're buyers or sellers. And so understanding that A, I have to make it work for me, but B, I still want to give my clients the best service ever. And so with that, I've adapted to having a showing agent, which a lot of teams do because it's just more efficient. So I have somebody that shows houses when they're up north. I have somebody that shows houses when they're down south and in between. And so that makes it more efficient, especially with the way Denver traffic has gotten. Nobody wants to go through downtown.
No,
So
not even up and around anymore.
no. And 470, it'll cost you $15 to go all the
Uh-huh.
way.
Uh-huh.
So let's be smart about this. So when I do the consultation, I'm considering, I've been here for, 2 decades. I grew up 3 hours from here. So I've seen all the different neighborhoods and how they sort of evolved. I layer in that public policy knowledge, and I pay attention to what cities and counties are doing and building and how they're reinvesting. And then, I can offer that knowledge to my clients so that when we sit down, we get real clear about what's your top 5, but what are the 3 most important things you have to have, and what are the 5 things that absolutely, even if the house is perfect, I cannot live with it. A lot of times that's a cemetery, which baffles me because
Mm.
your neighbors are always quiet and the lawn is always cut, but
That's true.
whatever. Um, and so it's it's clarity and conversations that we have that makes my time and my energy better and is a better use of that. And and then it's just the tools that we've put in place. So you run a great business, you have your tools and systems. I grew up and was taught very early, if you have to do it more than once, it has to be a
The
system.
system. Yep.
So um now, instead of walking a seller's house for doing it myself, saying what could be staged, or room by room, what improvements would pay off the most, I created a spreadsheet that one of my showing agents goes in, and they just go room by room: paint, flooring, windows, window coverings, and then we have an approximate price of what it will cost, and then an ROI cost as well. So then the seller can actually um, decide what they want to do. So it's using those tools. And can I just say, it's not just pocket, it's sellability now.
Yeah,
When we're looking
100%.
at 90 days on market or whatever, um, when you've got competition, you've got to have your stuff together. So
You really do. And I just, to your point of how you've adapted inside of your business too, it's just amazing to see, because I think so many people would allow them to go, well, I can't go show a home, or I can't, versus you sat down and went, okay, how do I actually make this process more efficient? So that way I can still do this, and I'm also protecting my energy. And I think just across the board in general, how many times do agents allow the clients to determine the amount of houses seen, versus you're getting that clarity up front? So also your people don't feel like they're wasting time looking at homes either.
that's the
So
thing.
yeah.
Nobody wants to go see junk houses.
Mm-mm.
So paying attention to the neighborhoods that have foundation issues, or really looking at those photos and checking the corners to see if above the windows there's cracks, or have they redone everything? Is it, what's it? And can we go back and look at historical? When was the last time it sold? Are there photos there? What did they change?
Yep.
Why is there a price increase? It's just using our tools at a little bit higher of a level that I've had to adapt to. And what people don't realize is realtors who are doing their job have, I mean, we are researchers at our heart. You have
Yes.
to want to get to the bottom of everything, because God forbid something go wrong. I didn't disclose it because I didn't know it, or my client is upset with me because they got into a neighborhood that doesn't have any kids, or doesn't feed into the school system they wanted, or floods on the 100-year flood, or whatever it may be. So, I guess the thing that gets me is that none of us have a crystal ball, and none of us know what tomorrow's going to bring. I had my business, my family, my everything set up. I thought I was rolling. I had 2 kids in school that were doing great. I was married in a long-term committed relationship. I had this new job that had ownership and autonomy over my business. And I got sick, and it affected me so much that I became a parent that I didn't want to be, and a spouse that no one would want to be with, quite frankly. And, as we go through life, we learn these lessons. And I've learned that if I don't learn it, it's going to come back around. So pay attention, and because it hurts a lot more the second or third time. And so part of my adaptation is learning to give myself grace
Mm.
and understand that there is a way to get everything done, and it never includes a force. It never includes pushing. It includes flowing with it, which I know people that aren't in Colorado or whatever, or California, are going to go, that's so hippy dippy. But it really is paying attention to your energy flow every single day, listening to your body, and trusting yourself. And you have to build that up. And I build that up through systems. And when a system fails, oh man, that's what really upsets me, because I feel like I should have already foreseen all the things that could possibly go wrong, and my system failed. But that's how we learn, and we just move forward.
That's, I mean, it's so true, because when, systems do fail, you're just like, what is happening for me? That I'm the same way, because, we rely on them heavily.
Well,
And
and
yet things still happen, right?
yeah, and your intention is to always provide the most information, the best communication. And there are so many types of people. Sometimes it doesn't matter.
And I think that's an excellent point, because sometimes it doesn't. You can try to foresee things happening, and sometimes it's how the other person is choosing to act. Um, that's always a fun one.
Yeah,
And
and it's not personal.
yeah, and it's not personal, or it's because at the end of the day they have something else going on, or life circumstances come out of nowhere. I mean, an example is the team that I was on, the seller died right before closing, and it went in through probate, and no one knew what to do, and it's still in probate 3 years later. And right. Um, and the buyer obviously was very upset, and everyone was trying to figure it out, but it was like we had never dealt with something. Unfortunately, fortunately, this person owned a lot of property, right? But yet, at the end of the day, it was so far unseen that things were also properly set up, because it was a complete fluke of what ended up happening. And so that's just something you can't just predict. And no matter what your systems are, you're not going to be, that's going to happen. And everyone's going to go, hold up, what are we supposed to do here?
Yeah. And somebody's going to lose time. Somebody's going to lose money. Somebody's going to lose, but nobody's going to die. Now, in your case, somebody did die, but not because of real estate.
Right.
But the disability that I have, because along with MS, I have ADHD, which, if you are paying any attention to my background, executive dysfunction is real. But what I realized is that's my superpower. I can hyper focus on one client's issue. Like if we don't have a septic cleaned out and it's 3 days to closing and it's got to be certified, and all these different things. A, I'm upset that my system didn't catch it before then. But B, okay, cool. That's literally a shitty situation. But it's got to be pumped and certified and all of that before it can change hands. And that's one of those county by county things too. So,
yep. Understanding the counties.
Yep. And so, just explaining and knowing and assuring not just your clients, but the agent on the other side, the vendors that you talk to, having that deeper understanding is nobody is dying. I'm not asking you to take extra time away from your family. I understand that this is painful. And believe me, if I could have foreseen this, my business is literally called Forsythe. Like, I tried to see everything, but you just can't. And so understanding you're some things are just going to get through, but adapting the mentality, and I try to get my clients to understand that as well, is that disability is the only protected class that you or anyone else could enter into tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so the house that you're buying now, are you going to be house poor? Are you going to be able to afford to put furniture in it? Is it dependent on both incomes or one? Do you have a backup plan if for some reason the down payment or the interest rate jumps? Have you thought about if your parents may be moving in, how does that accommodate them in the future? Are you wanting a multi-generational property? Does this land, there's like a million things to think of.
Right.
And a lot of times we do all those subconsciously or just automatically. And it really is stopping and having the conversation with your clients about adapting. And I couldn't get out of my own way for the longest time and tell people that I was in a wheelchair because I was afraid that they would judge that I couldn't do the job, that whatever it may be. And finally, you just realize if they do, those aren't the clients for you. I want coachable people. I want clients who understand this is an investment. It may be short-term pain for long-term gain. Just because the way I do things is a little different doesn't mean it's bad. Maybe it's better. I would love to have had somebody who has been through the solar panel transfer and known how painful that is, and who has understood what it takes to replace the sewer line connection from your house to where it connects to the city. And that experience and that piece is something you can't learn in a book or learn off a TV show or anything like that. So
it's so true, and especially when those certain things arise, because I think so much emotion obviously happens because clients just see either money coming out of their pockets or they're seeing dollar bills. They're asking what else is wrong with the house if it's a buyer. And yet someone that's been through that just knows this is okay. This is just kind of the course. This is kind of what happens sometimes with homes. I mean, there are homes that I'm like, this should be a really clean inspection. And then something big and ugly comes back and we're all like, wait, what?
how did they wire that panel?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always tell my clients, I guarantee you there will be a wrinkle, at least one. And a wrinkle in my
100%.
book is something that upsets the smooth waters, that we're going to have to iron it out. We're going to have to press on some things. We're going to have to put a little time into it, but everything will be workable. And I hate to say this, but I have switched preferred lenders a couple of times. A lot of times it's a vendor that we have known and chosen and something comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll love this. The example of having a client that has a pre-approval letter, they're going and shopping, they want to buy a house, we're under contract, and they go and buy a new car.
Yeah.
I literally had a client call me because his transmission went out on his car. This happened last week. And he goes, Renee, I know what you're going to tell me, but it's X amount of dollars to get this fixed, or it's 2X that amount, well, actually 4X that amount to go and buy a brand new one. And I would much rather have a brand new one. And I was like, call your lender. And he was like, no, I don't want to bother him. So as I was on the phone with him, I texted the lender and I said, hey, is he good to do that? And he goes, let me get back to the office and run the numbers. Before I was off the phone with the client, the agent or the lender had texted me back and said, yeah, he's good to go. Now, me personally, I didn't believe him. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. He's not okay. The answer is always no to this question.
The 1 in a million chance he
That
was
doesn't.
fine.
Yeah.
So I was just like, ugh.
Oh man.
Always ask. If you've got an issue, don't try to hide it. If you've got something you're questioning, there is always people around you to help answer. And if I can't find the answer, I will find the person. That's why I work with the people that I work with.
Well, and I think to that point too, right? Like, in real estate, as there's someone else that has done it before, right?
Yeah.
So ask the question, but how many agents actually are putting in their consultation about this and having this conversation with their clients up front? Because I mean, I have seen deals blow up because they just the
They didn't
consumer
know.
doesn't the consumer doesn't know. And that's we're supposed to be the professionals and we should be educating them. And so I think the biggest thing through this conversation is, to the agents watching this, do you have a process up front, especially with your buyers? I think a lot of people have some kind of listing appointment, but I think when it comes to buyers, people miss that opportunity so much.
And what's the phrase that agents use about buyers all the time?
Buyers are liars.
Yep. They're not. Buyers
We
that
just didn't
you think
ask.
are liars are ones that didn't get asked the right question.
Yes. Oh, see, I love this one. This one's gonna call getting real, getting right. Cause at this point, I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. And that's where I see things go so wrong because people just didn't, there's no process of making sure they understand fully. Like, I have seen custody situations where child support isn't mentioned, and on paper they look great until they pull the court stuff, and then they're like, oh, nope, you don't qualify anymore.
Yeah. And those types of things, oh my gosh, how many times do we see something come up in HOA docs? Um, and, I've had a client that never paid an HOA and lived in the brand new house for like 4 years. He didn't know he had an HOA. He had an HOA. We went to sign closing documents, and he had an HOA. And this is why you have great partners. My
Yes.
people at Land Title pulled it out within an hour. They had the docs, they had papers corrected, they had numbers fixed, and he was able to sit there and sign it all. And I don't know, a couple of months ago, I had a closing and it was with a different title company. And we waited for an hour and a half for them to print the documents at closing because the person didn't forward them, they didn't have them, nobody could communicate what was actually going on. And then they didn't have checks then, which happens sometimes. But it was more than a week later. We had to go back to the title company. We had to ask them. They had to reprint checks. They just never did it. And that's a vendor, that's a group that doesn't have a system.
Yep.
I'm like, every time that happens, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back through my checklist.
Yep.
That brings me comfort just to make sure that I have everything there. So I am constantly moving vendors in and out, the ones that, and it may have been a one-off fluke or not. Either way, I don't have time, and neither do my clients, and we don't have money to be spending on people who aren't doing what they need to do because I can't do everybody's job. So,
Yeah.
or do I want to?
Right. So true. So the next question is interesting because I obviously think I know the answer to this one. Um, at the end of the podcast, I always ask everyone, is there a book or a podcast that you enjoy? However, I would love for you to talk about your book.
Oh, that's the one I'd like the least right now. That is a lesson on failing forward. So last year I published a book called Obstacle Opportunity, because so much of what we do during the day is mindset. And when we have an
100%.
obstacle come at us, we're oftentimes left wondering, we're stuck. We get frozen going, oh my God, why is this happening? Why is not the question to ask at that time. So I turned the word obstacle into an acronym for how you move through that. So O is, oh, do you see it? Have I seen this before? Have I gone through this before? If so, how did I handle it? And then B is, Something people use with the word itch attached to it. You need to like let that frustration out. That is
I love that. My brain took a second there, but I was like, what? Oh,
yeah,
I love that.
that bee has an
Ah,
itch and
yeah,
you need to let out the frustration because if it truly is an obstacle, you're gonna be pissed.
and
And
frustrated,
then
and
and
it's
then call
okay.
yeah, and then calling it what it is. S is shit. And what do I grew up in a farming community, so the manure can be good and bad. If it is used correctly, it's a great fertilizer. It can really help you
Mhm.
grow. And if you stand in it and do nothing with it, it will rot you.
Yeah,
So
100%.
you cannot sit in that situation. You need to decide how you're going to use it. And then the rest of it, the word obstacle is tackle. So, in order to get to the opportunity, you need to tackle it. You start with thankfulness and gratitude. You talk to others and see if they've done things. A is for action. You need to build a plan. How can you hold yourself accountable? How can you hold other people accountable that need um, that will help you figure out your process? C is choosing. You have choices. You can either stay at the stage, you can move forward, you can phone a friend, you can call and get others in to help you do something. But it's all about making those choices. Now, L is one of those things that came to me because my boys, I brought them up in the rugby community. I love the sport of rugby. But that L, when you start to get tackled in rugby or in life, if you lean into it and go to ground, you're going to be able to gather yourself. You're going to allow time for other people to come to you and help you. You're going to allow time for the ones that don't want to help to leave. And then you're able to launch with that same L. And then the last letter is E, and that's energy. You get to decide whether you want to launch with positivity or negativity, knowing that just like magnets, if you are positive, you are going to attract negative. So, why don't you launch smartly, positively? And if you launch negatively and you have that other negative piece come up, it's going to push you back down under and you're going to end up right back at the beginning in OBS. So, have you seen it before? Get your frustration out. How are you going to use it? And I have used this in traffic because traffic is a recurrent frustration for me.
I don't blame you.
And so, like, what could I have done? Where am I going to go? What's my choices? Are there other ways to go? Okay, how do I lean into this? Good. Turn the air conditioning on, put on my podcast. I'm stuck in traffic. How am I going to make the best out of this? So that's the book. That's the first book. I have a couple more coming, hopefully, but we'll see.
I love it. Yay. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's always a fun question. I was like, ooh, when I get to ask her this question today, I was like, actually.
Obstacle Opportunity 2.0 is getting revised, and I self published the first one. And I thought there was an editor involved with the company that I went with, and it wasn't. So, lesson learned. And we'll do it. We'll do it again. After talking to several best-selling authors through um, different conferences I have attended, not a single one of them liked their first, second, or third book.
Interesting.
I was like, all right, I'm in good company. Yay. Hate the work that you did. But I learned a lot. So,
Well, I think that's right. But now you know what
yeah,
that looks like. Because usually an author's first, second, or third book isn't necessarily their biggest book either,
yeah,
because they had to learn the lessons from the first three.
yeah. Well, and when you have kids, it's the same way. No, I'm joking.
Right.
But when you get your first job, you don't know how to negotiate that salary,
No.
and you don't know how to deal with coworkers, and and we don't ever think anything about that. But we're learning that entire time. Think about when I just taught 2 teenagers how to drive the last couple of years,
Yeah.
and my hair's not gray yet. But I always told them, if you're not going to cost me a lot of money and you're not going to cause somebody bodily harm, I'm going to stay chill. So if you kind of adopt that, yeah, suck's going to come. Suck's going to
It's
suck.
gonna.
And next, there's always a way around it.
100%. Oh, well, I loved this.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a guest. I knew you had to be on here and just to talk about it because I feel like so many people need to hear your story, so they can embrace the suck in their life. That's what I've always heard. Embrace the suck.
Yeah.
And if you embrace it and also push through that whole lean, that's why I love when you talked about lean into it. When you lean into it, there's just a lot of beautiful things that can actually come from it.
Yeah. And with L, we can put a million labels with it. You can put leverage. You can put, I don't know, linger. You take some time to yourself. It really is the whole thing is being introspective and understanding what can I control and what can't I control.
Exactly.
So
Love
thanks
it.
for having me. This was fun.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
of course, if you want to buy or sell in Denver, the Denver Metro, I'm here.
Yes. Yes. An agent friends. Yes. She is your Denver girl to go to for sure. So.
Or if you want to have me come talk and teach about obstacle opportunity.
Yes. Yes. And she
No,
does.
like
Well,
little.
actually, I do share that actually, because I do know that you're going around and teaching
Yeah.
this course right now. Yeah.
Well, and I was just out to North Carolina. The Central Carolina Realtor Association had me out there for Fair Housing Week or month, and we talked about adaptability and helping your clients see 5 years ahead and understanding, building requirements, code requirements, your resources, and those sort of things. So, yeah, there's always more to learn.
There is for sure. Awesome. Well, yay. Well, guys, make sure you connect with Renee, and I hope you found a lot of value in this episode, and we'll see you next time for the next podcast.
Bye, guys.